Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for August 7th, 2017. Could we have the roll, please?
Tyler Robinson.
Here.
John Spring.
Here.
Brendan Sporhays.
Here.
Andre Spinelli.
Here.
Danielle Bailey.
Here.
Mitzi Barker. Here. Greg Strike.
Here.
Brian Looney.
Here.
Brennan Walker. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to adopt the minutes of July the 10th? Thank you, Ms. Bailey, seconded by Mr. Strike. Any discussion on those minutes? Hearing none, the minutes for July 10th are adopted. Next up, before I get into the disclosures, Mr. Spring, can I get a motion to add an item to the agenda?
Yes, I move to add informational item regarding the new zoning district R3A.
Can we add that as a C2?
C2, sorry.
Great, thank you. It's seconded by Ms. Bailey. Any objection? Seeing none, that will be added as C2, a short presentation, I think, from Mr. Cecil. On disclosures, Ms. Bailey.
None.
Mr. Looney.
None.
Mr. Strike.
Yes, on the case on the consent agenda D1D, resolution 2017-025, I was not present for that and would abstain from voting.
Thank you. Mr. Spring.
Yes, I did not attend the meetings regarding resolutions 1A, B, and C, and will not be voting on that.
Thank you. Mr. Spinelli.
I was recused from resolutions 1A, B, and C and will not be voting on them.
Okay. And for Ms. Barker, she's informed me that she has laryngitis, and I think those of you that heard her roll call, I think, can believe it. But Mitzi was not present for resolutions that are D1A, B, and C, and will also be abstaining for those. Mr. Sporhays?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On case 1D, 20170070, I was recused from that case.
Great. Thank you. I have no disclosures. C2, Mr. Cecil, the R3A zoning district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Just a quick update. Have laid on the table a brochure that the Planning Department put together for the proposed R3A residential mixed-use zoning district that we're working on. We would like to get a work session scheduled with you, presumably either the first or second meeting in October, so that we can show you what we've come up with. We're working on that right now. So it is also on the webpage, Planning Department webpage. I did not bring you a copy tonight because of your other business, but we're also in the process of updating that based on a technical review committee that we have, and we just met with them late last week, and we're incorporating their edits into that document. So it's an organic process right at the moment.
What was that? Yeah, go ahead.
Just a question. Could it be done sooner? Does it have to wait till October?
We could do it sooner. Yeah, and the reason I didn't mention September is because I believe that one of those meetings you have maybe one case. The other meeting, I think maybe there's nothing. So I didn't want to presume that you would, do a work session without any other business.
You're not ready for that work session right now, are you?
Not today, no.
Next week?
If you could find a time to meet, we could do that.
I'm very busy.
Yeah, I think I'll defer to staff on that. I think we're ready for it when you're ready for it. It's kind of how I'm seeing everybody here tonight. So
Okay. You keep September open since there's nothing on there yet, but I'm just saying, let's.
Sure. I will talk to Carol tomorrow and get back with Tyler and the chairman and see what we can schedule. So with that, typically you have had like noon meetings for some of these work sessions, but they're not typically all the members there, and we would like to have as many as possible, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We haven't had good attendance when it hasn't been the work session right before the meeting, and that's fine. I think people are just too busy during the day, so. No, when you can bring it on. I would just add that it's helpful to understand where more specifically we're really thinking about having this zoning district be available, and why it can't be done in R4A or in B3. And my initial screen on it is it seems like it's being overcomplicated with bonus systems and things like that. If we want this type of development, you need to make it easy for people to do this type of development. We figure out where it is and we do it. And I think our inclination with a lot of Title 21 stuff was just to make it overly complex and complicated. That's my very general comment. Devil's in the details of the ordinance, but.
Yeah, okay. I will get back with you and see what we can schedule. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Cecil? Great. Thanks, John. On the consent agenda, can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please? Thank you, Mr. Strike. Seconded by Ms. Bailey. We are pulling item D1D, is that correct? Because we do not have that resolution in front of us. So consider that item pulled from the consent agenda. Do we have the votes for D1A, B, and C then, other than those that have abstained? We do. Okay. So any objection to adopting the consent agenda, which includes items D1A, B, and C? Okay. Seeing none, the consent agenda is adopted. Is it easier if I just call the vote on those? Okay. Lori will mark the abstentions based on your disclosures earlier. That brings us to the one case here this evening, I believe, right? Case 2017-87, Providence Health and Services, conditional use permit for a social service facility, Alaska Cares, generally located south of East 48th Avenue, west of Cordova, north of East 51st, and east of A Street. I'm going to go ahead and state the procedure by which the public may speak. After the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, I will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. For petitioners, including his or her representatives, 10 minutes, and part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. Representatives of groups such as community councils, 5 minutes, and individuals, 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the Commission. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the Commission. An individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Planning and Zoning Commission takes, except Commission recommendations to the Assembly which are not appealable. Appeals must be filed with the Clerk's office within 20 days after approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission of the resolution, which is the Commission's final decision. A fee for the appeal is required at time of filing. Could we have the staff report, Mr. McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a conditional use for a social service facility in the RO Residential Office District. The department mailed out 122 public hearing notices on June 23rd. No responses were received from the public. Both the Midtown Community Council and the Spenard Community Council provided resolutions in support of the request before you, and they're included in your packet. The department finds that the application and request for conditional use complies with all of the provisions of Title 21 and the approval criteria for conditional uses, the 9 approval criteria for conditional uses, and the the use-specific standards for social service facilities as well. Therefore, the department is recommending approval of this social service facility subject to conditions 1 through 3 on page 5 of your packet. Conditions 1 and 2 are standard conditions of approval, that it's subject to the plans that you see included in this packet, also that they have to record a notice of zoning action once they've satisfied the conditions of approval. And condition number 3 is just a minor condition of approval to show the location of a dumpster if they choose to use one. That was just something that hadn't been clarified prior to the finalization of the report. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I know the applicant has a representative with a presentation as well.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Any questions for staff? Okay, you're up, Ms. Ritter.
My name is Michelle McNulty, McNulty. Sorry, I had change. With me this evening is Leslie Thomas, an architect with KPB, as well as representatives from Providence. Alaska Cares is an outpatient clinic that provides sexual and physical abuse evaluations for children ages newborn to 18 years old. The office hours are Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. With 24-hour on-call services for emergencies. The program has successfully operated for 20 years at its existing location on Dale Street. However, the current space is leased, and due to the landlord's desire to repurpose the building, Alaska Cares needs to relocate. So the new site is going to be located at East 48th and A Street, which is zoned RO, as staff has indicated. Social services are allowed in the RO district, subject to approval of a conditional use permit. Approval of this conditional use permit, it will allow Providence to continue to provide this critical service, which is the only facility of its kind in Anchorage. It provides treatment in a facility where victim advocates, law enforcement, child protection, tribal health, forensic medicine, and mental health providers are under one roof. So what that allows is a single point of entry for care. This helps eliminate additional trauma and suffering to victims. They don't have to go to multiple locations, have duplicative interviews, and just allows them to go to one place. This facility has law enforcement present during normal working hours, as well as it's provided during the on-call emergency services. The site has been designed to blend in with the surrounding uses. It's primarily surrounded by residential across the street, where we're leaving about a 70-foot retention of existing vegetation, so across 48th. And then to the across A Street, there's a row of hotels, and then to the west and to the south are industrial uses, and also St. Elias Specialty Hospital. As Francis indicated, we provided presentations to both the Midtown and the Spenard Community Councils. The project does sit within the Midtown Community Council, but that one is more focused to businesses. So we elected to go to both, and both community councils did pass resolutions of support for the project. We've read the packet. We agree with the conditions of approval, and I want to thank staff for working with us to make sure that we had minimal conditions of approval on this project. And I'd like to save the rest of my time for rebuttal.
Thank you. You have just over 7 minutes. Any questions for the petitioner? Mr. Strike.
Yes, thank you, and through the chair. I think some of your who is north and south and east and west is just reversed. You've got St. Elias to the east.
Yeah.
You've got a vacant I-1 lot to the west that's zoned right now for some additional hotels. And to the north, there's no residential because it's adjacent on the following street up
Correct.
to the side.
Thank you.
I'm very familiar with the location and the area here, and you've got a lot of wetlands area here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me rephrase. You have a lot of wet property
Yes.
because of the drainage in the area. You also have two brand-new roads that were just installed there, I believe, for A Street and 48th.
48. Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the concerns when those roads went in, was that the development that would ultimately take place here on this lot would then be using. Development happens. I get that. I just take extra special care
Yes.
because it was a mess
Yeah.
before with the trucks that were coming in, because you've got an extreme amount of peat that goes down probably, I'm going to guess, anywhere from 5 to 14 feet in this area. So there's a lot of haul out requirement, and I'm not going to teach you how to do this, but it's a pain.
Yeah.
I developed the property right across the street. And it took about a year and a half to X out and work that property.
Yeah. So the area that Mr. Strike is speaking of, most of the site has Class C wetlands. We've submitted for our 404 permit with the Corps that just went out actually for public notice today. And so this is kind of the low spot of the site, so that's why we kind of have the drainage going there to the low end, retaining as much of the vegetation, and then we'll be doing a fee in lieu, likely for mitigation purposes.
And you have some underground streams there.
Yes. Watershed Mapping Services has also been out on the site.
Yeah. This is outpatient only.
Yes.
Is there any intention forward? Would there ever be any inpatient activity on this?
I'm going to
property?
say no, but I'm going to poke my head to Leslie and confirm that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strike. Any other questions? Like I said, you have a little over 7 minutes for rebuttal. At this point, I'd like to open for public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify on this case, please come on down. Just ask that you state your name and then if you could spell it for the record, that'd be great.
My name is Josh Schultz, SCHULTZ. I actually live in the neighborhood 4600 Cordova Street, a little bit farther down. I would really like to have a place like this in my neighborhood. It would clear out. Right now, we've been having a lot of vagrants problems within those areas, especially the one you're actually developing. And it would help clean up the neighborhood. I know I think the old TCC used to be across the street from St. Elias. It's now that vacant lot. That also made the neighborhood nicer when it was there. And I would like to see more nice areas that are clean cut. Yes, it is great. It is a big building, but with some green belt around it, it could help make the neighborhood a little bit better. So I would really like to see more nice things in the neighborhood that I live in currently.
Great. Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else wishing to testify? All right, Miss. Spell your last name. What's your McNulty? Sorry, Michelle. See, it wasn't just me. I know.
It changed. Trying to keep you guys on your toes.
Thank you.
No, I have no rebuttal. I would like to thank Mr. Schultz. I did not know him, so I appreciate him coming out.
I know it's
speaking
shocking
up.
getting someone to support a project here at the Planning Commission, but
I do appreciate that.
yeah. Okay, thank you. At this point, I'd like to close the public hearing. What's the wish of the body? Mr. Spring.
I move.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry. I move to approve conditional use for a social service facility in the RO Residential Office District, Providence St. Elias Subdivision Track A, with the 3 conditions as proposed by staff on page 5 of the staff report.
Great. Thank you. And that's seconded by Mr. Sporhays. Go ahead and speak to your motion.
Oh, I think this is pretty cut and dry. The site plan looks excellent. I like the retention of the existing vegetation. That really helps to buffer the residential to the north, the residentially zoned to the north. It meets the conditional use standards 210308D, the general standards. It also meets the specific standards contained in 2105.080C, and I believe this is very compatible with the existing neighborhoods, especially given that there's hospitals on the west, and there's hotels on the west, and also a medical facility to the east. So it fits in, I think, very well. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Anyone else wishing to comment? Ms. Bailey.
I would also just like to note that it received not just community council support from the one in the area, but also from a neighboring community council, and then also the support of an individual who came in to speak, which does not often happen. And I think that speaks to that this is well suited for the area, and just as far as Anchorage demographic, that this social services facility is something that is needed here as well. And so I think all those just add that this is a good spot and a good thing to have.
I'll go.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Mr. Strike.
Thank you. This is, the development in this area has been a long time in the making. The state has spent an extreme amount of funds in developing the properties and the roads, the improvements in this area. Wastewater utility has approved, and I know that we have a new backbone infrastructure in place to handle the wastewater and the water and sewer into this area. So this, all good news, good client, meaning Providence, good to see them in there. Just ask that they hold their developers to a high QA. Be mindful of the area and the development of that property as you develop it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Strike. At that point, please vote. This conditional use is approved. Thank you. Could we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. And seconded. Any objection? We are adjourned.